We have been following the topic of, it's a topic number 24 to 27 in this text, and it is explained beautifully. Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan. Shravan means, literal translation is listening and learning. Manan means contemplation, and Nididhyasan. Normally, literally, we say it is a practice of meditation, but it is a non-practice that we will also cover deeply. So we are covering listening and learning by a teacher in Eastern wisdom is explained beautifully. But this learning demands satsang. So we should always keep in the background of our mind that satsang is listening and learning. But why? What we are listening and learning? We are learning about the subjective reality, and the mind is engaged too much in the objective reality. So when we say that satsang brings detachment, so it means now the mind starts looking and getting attached to the real self as the things becomes clearer and clearer. So now it says, if the real self now it is there, let me get attached to it. So you detach from the worldly objects because of the delusion. We clarify that, and then we get detached. So when we live into that state of the detachment, that is what you just said. Whether it is happening for good or bad, I don't know. So our mind should be very clear, whatever is happening is good for me. Why? I don't have control over the world. No control. Forget about it. Even the nearest and the dearest you cannot control. What to talk of the world outside. And closer to the dearest is the body. We cannot control our body. You cannot keep the body in a healthier condition all the time. Anyhow, you can force the body to remain still. But if the mind is already agitated inside, the mind is not going to keep the body still. To some extent, we can force the body to be still, but can you keep the mind? Can you force the mind to be still? So I say it is my mind that is attachment. When I say unwelcome thoughts, unwanted thoughts, they are bound to come as long as I live with my past impressions. So I welcome everything that is coming, but I am a witness. I am a witness. Same thing applies in the affairs, in the condition and situation. There is no situational sorrow. There is no condition, event. There is no event that causes me the sorrow, good and bad. It is my attachment to it. It is what I am seeking. So there the role of, I'm deviating and I'll come back, deviating in just in one sentence. That is why we say that Bhakti Yoga comes here. We should redirect our emotion to one God with a name in the form, with one existence without name in the form, to change the direction of the emotion from the world outside to inside. Then what happens? Do the likes and dislikes remain? No. Do I see good and bad? No. I take every event, every condition, every opportunity in my life as a big opportunity. Some opportunity, some event and condition teaches me the endurance, other gives me a sense of pleasure, and both are due to the attachment. What we are seeking by listening and learning, we are seeking the subjective reality. We are not seeking the objective reality. So when that state of the mind is reached, you can say that is also a purification of the mind. So what happens now? The worldly affairs, its condition, our relationship, our situation, event and condition, we recognize it is happening for my conscious evolution. Anything that happens in my life, or anything that has happened until date. Why I use the word until date? Mind retrieves the memory. Some memories it considers pleasurable, others it considers frustration, and still others have a strong likes and dislikes. What I'm saying is that memory is likes and dislikes. Because if I don't remember, I don't recall, there is no frustration. So that stage comes when we have a very deeper level of dispassion. I'm using to change these phrases. Desire, anger. Anger is desire unfulfilled. Greed is desire fulfilled and craving for that. It is the desire only. Desire for peace is objectified, is delusion, but still it is a desire. And all desire is a memory. We will understand that. He is going to talk about it. I'm just picking up. So that is why Shankara says listening and learning by a teacher results into detachment, detachment to dispassion. So now we are understanding clearly, oh, this is the way the detachment is. So I'm attached to a particular thing. Okay, mind, you are attached, you know what is attachment. Okay, get attached to the real self. Take it easy. Don't force. Don't control. Because the control will again take me to the objectification of the mind. Objectification of the mind will take its content from the memory. The memory contains the past impression, what we know, the vasana and the sanskaras, and my whole entire moment, entire life will continue in that way. Oh, it's a clarity. We need to have that clarity. So that is why where it says satasangatte nisasangatvam. Satsang, listening and learning from the teacher, results into detachment. Then satasangatte nisasangatvam, then that detachment results into dispassion. And what he says, nisasangat nirmohatve nischal tattvam. Now I see what is happening in the mind. Thoughts are coming and going, very good. I have a state of dispassion and I have a sense of detachment. So what happens? The mind experiences its own deeper layer. That is the steadiness of the mind. So when everything is already there, why to practice? Why to listen? So we already know the answer. We have to listen until we recognize I have a cognitive ability. It is possible that memory retrieves a particular desire or a particular incident of anger and hesitation at this moment in the mind, but I'm in the state of dispassion. Thank you very much. Done. That is known as the natural steadiness of the mind. We need not to focus, we need not to make an effort, we have to understand. Some blast took place in the neighbor's house, and I am sure it did not happen to me. I am still in the state of dispassion. So that natural steadiness of the mind is a purified state of the mind where listening and learning at a higher level takes place. And that is what we discussed last time. We discussed through examples, right side of the heart, left side of the heart. We said no, there are two types of the listening. Two types of the listening we briefly picked up. So now what happens in that state? The mind becomes very soft and gentle. Because why it becomes hard? Because I have to face a lot of challenges in the world. But now these challenges are just an opportunity for me to awaken to the six treasures. They are just opportunities. I just take it as an opportunity. Here there is a problem. Okay, very good. Let me sit down and contemplate and reflect and find the solution of the problem. So I go into the cause and effect of the relationship. I am deviating a bit because it is required to understand what this master is saying. Let me sit down if I have a problem. So what exactly I do while sitting? I want to know the cause and effect relationship. That is understanding. That is knowledge. That is why those who have studied science, they always want to know the cause. We follow the same process. Until the mind is totally purified, then what happens? We land up into the causeless state. What is the causeless state? It is the ultimate cause of everything. What is the ultimate cause of everything? It is consciousness. So we start with the cause and effect relationship, and ultimately we reach to that state of causelessness. Beyond that, there is no cause. You cannot find it. You cannot comprehend it. You cannot imagine it. So once we cannot imagine it, now we know this is what I am. So what happens? So we should also understand the changes that should take place during this journey is that the clarity about the real self and the non-self brings a sense of humility. Your mind with the memory has been stuck with anxiety, reaction and hatred against someone. Now that is gone. Now you recognize, why to stay with these impressions. So that clears the mind and results into the humility and also a greater receptivity. Greater receptivity, because now the mind is not engaged in those small things which happened a couple of years back, and mind still retrieves that. I will not talk to you. Enough is enough. I have seen you. So first time I did it, memory continues. That guy meets me again, and my mind takes the stand. The memory, that desire pops. No, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to talk to you. This is enough. I have to remove that moment of anxiety. So that is what happens. I live at a higher level of awareness, and that results into the humility. Humility means the receptivity. Receptivity means that I recognize what it is. Simple. I do not distort that reception through my mind. I do not distort my reception. One guy, you come and I say I love you, and the other guy comes and I say I hate you. So I'm not receiving as it is. I'm receiving again. So I'm receiving with attachment and a passion. I don't have a dispassion. So that passion and the attachment comes from the memory from the desire, and the desire is already seated in my mind. So that is why we say the knowledge should bring a sense of humility. Yesterday I was not talking to someone, but now I am open, I'm ready. He said, no, you didn't talk to me, for so many years. Oh, sorry, I'm so very really sorry. I was mistaken. You don't see that other is going to take over you, is going to dominate you. You know, because you are already aware. You have that level of receptivity. So you don't go by that. So you see that, so we should always keep in mind while listening and learning in the background. So the knowledge gives us that sense of humility or receptivity. Now that receptivity means that I start living at a higher level of awareness. What does it mean by a higher level of awareness? It is the purity of the mind. My mind is very clear, dispassionate. I see that any event do not become me. Any event, any situation do not become the subject. Because that subject says, I am stressed, I hate you. Not very subtle, you can easily understand. So that what happens? Now the mind continues its march to the higher level of awareness. In that state of dispassion and continuing the process of discernment, we experience, I'm calm. In the morning I wake up and I'm calm. In the afternoon I'm still calm. No, I had some problem, but yes, I solved that problem, but I'm calm. So that is one indication that now the mind is 100% available to me in any situation, in every situation. That outer situation is not affecting the mind, and the mental interpretation caused by the memory and the desire is absent. It is all a matter of understanding. We need not to go to Kundalini meditation. Oh, I have a lot of negative thoughts. You are responsible for it. Your ignorance is responsible for it. Now I see this event is very, very destructive for me. It is your mind. How you see the situation. Situation is not going to change. My date of death is not going to change. Do whatever you want to do. So you see that inner qualification begins. Now in that state of inner qualification, I'm answering your previous questions again in a different way. That inner qualification recognizes and realizes that the ultimate goal of the life is to discover the real self. In that contains the other three means which we have realized as the goals in life. We are not leaving it. In the beginning, we have to clarify that these are the means, they are not the goals. Earning wealth, making an effort to earning wealth, getting a sense of pleasure, and following the nitya karma, etc. So in the beginning, now you see that how the master makes a transition. That master says, no, you have to understand this. In the beginning, when there is a primary seeker, we say, no, you have to get rid of this, as long as you do not change. But now it happens in that final goal of the life, or ultimate goal of the life, the mind recognizes how to adjust and align with the outer situation in your personal, professional, social, family life to live in that state of calmness to continue the journey. So they continue. You need not to worry about it. So until that worry merges, worry dissolves completely about the money, it will come. If it is not coming from one project, it will come from the other. Okay, I'm not born with the money. Those thought pops up in your mind, and it keeps your mind calm. I had a pleasure, any kind. You take up any pleasure. I had the pleasure, but can I add that pleasure at this moment without going into contact with that object or a person? No, it doesn't happen. I have experienced millions of pleasures until today. and you cannot add all pleasures together and make it a permanent state of happiness. Not possible. So that idea comes to your mind. So that is also another indication that now you are continuing the journey, and you feel that now the life has changed, my behavior and attitude has changed. So what happens once we have that inner qualification? The time comes in the life of a seeker that you don't want to leave until you realize. Whether you sleep or you are in a business, in the background, everything is there. In the background, everything remains there. And outside, you are doing all the activities. So that is another level of becoming a seeker. And when that, so all the listening and learning, all these principles and all these topics are meant to reach to that state. We should reach to that state where the mind does not want to return, do not get frustrated, do not return to that same state which we have experienced in our life before. Once that state is always there in the mind, then the mind is ready. Why it is ready? It is ready for listening and learning. Now again ask the same question, listening and learning. We are going purely logically. That is what this master is doing. So I'm very, very logical. It appears maybe a very dry topic, but once we contemplate and reflect, we recognize, yes, this is what it is. So now in that state of purification of the mind, that state of the mind will be able to receive the teachings by learning directly from the right side of the heart. That is what we discussed, that first type of listening. Now come to the same main topic of giving the background, the same topic of we are discussing and understanding what is listening and learning by a teacher in the Eastern wisdom. Now the things become more clear. Oh, this is what it is. What it is, that the first type of the listening engages our sense organs, our mind with the objective reality. The mind is obsessed, possessed by some sense of objective reality. In the other type of the listening, our heart and the being are involved. So all the previous steps covers here. That is why we say our heart and the being are involved. Why? The mind is looking for the subjective reality. Mind is not happy with any form of objective reality, and that is what is the importance of listening and learning. Now compare the two. So when the mind is constantly possessed, or I can say hacked by the objective world, hijacked by the objective world, our frequency or the power to listen these principles is very low, because at a subtler level the mind is constantly interfering, or it is relating to the objective reality. That is why we say heart and the being should be involved in listening to the teacher. So you see, they are symbolic, they are metaphors. It is all a matter of awareness. The heart is on the right side, you say. So do you see that, we also have a left side of the heart? No, we are not. It's a metaphor. It's a symbol. For the sake of understanding. If we live into that level of awareness, we are doing it. We're very simple. Because of constant interference, what the master is saying and what the mind understands, there is a big gap. Because of that subtle difference. Because I understand because of my mind. So there is always a big gap. That gap is reduced by constant listening and learning. I find it now a new level of, oh, no, 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 you are right, no, no, you're right, you're right. So what happens in that case? The mind is open. Mind is always open to discussion and correction. Mind is always ready to ask the big question. That is one. Second is because repeat listening and learning, what happens, mind goes back to the real self again and again during the day, during our activities of the life. Another way to understand, the teacher in the Eastern wisdom, if they are well versed, they always operates from the right side of the heart. Again, I'm using the same metaphor. And that is one major reason to be always in touch with the teacher. Otherwise, we are already in touch with the world. Those impressions will return again. And their impressions is already experienced by the mind. The mind will say, okay, I will find another way to go into peace and happiness. If not one person, then the second person will give me peace and happiness. Now, if this situation, no, I will find out another situation. So the mind is engaged into the objective reality. So teacher is always talking from the right side of the heart. So when the mind reaches that, it receives the same knowledge from the right side of the heart. The journey is complete. Journey is complete. We see that. We see that journey. Yes, one more point that is very important here is that why the teacher teaches from the right side of the heart? Because he is aware of the whole. How the seeker understands? Seeker understands from the left side of the heart. He is listening and learning the part, not aware of the whole. So anyhow, the teacher brings the seeker again and again by repeat listening and understanding, correcting the removing the misconceptions and correcting the wrong notions. The mind becomes very soft and gentle. It is ready to listen. So, by constant listening, that is why the master and disciple tradition is present. Another perspective, one master explains that when we reach to that level of a seeker, the seeker endures, seeker tolerates the pain and the discomfort easily, in peace and happiness. It perceives the world, it's a matter of dispassion. I will solve this problem, it will happen. Why? Now see another little and very subtler. Now when I say endure pain and the suffering coming from the world, it simply means that my mind of a seeker is not following the temptations of the world. That is the endurance. Endurance is not that, I'm forcing myself to control myself. No, it is a matter of awareness. So from where the temptation comes? From the memory, from the desire, and long list. I have already explained it. That is the importance of listening and learning. This is what he is going to talk about it. I'm explaining from the other teachings of the master so that things should become clear, and then we will directly go to come to what he says. Well, we have already explained what he says about another way to understand that we maintain an awareness during the listening and learning with viveka and vairagya is in the background are beneficial to the knowledge. Viveka and vairagya lives inside the mind. If some event is happening of which I am deeply attached, I need not to close my eyes. I need to awaken viveka and vairagya in my mind. That is important, and we miss that point. Often we miss that point. No, don't talk to this guy, I know he's crazy. No, let me talk. As long as the conversation goes in the state of peace and calmness, let me continue. Until it changes, I can stop. Even in the family, even in the relation situations, son and daughter, etc., etc. We should understand that. So last time we also understood that now Master says, no. There are many types of listening that we picked up. So in the first type of the listening that our Master talks about, it should have 6 characteristics. That there should be a presentation of the subject matter at the beginning and at the time of the conclusion of the talk. We repeat in a different way. So I just repeated by giving different metaphors and examples. And I also explained you what is the result. Humility, receptivity, inner qualification. So we teachers have to follow these rules. Seeker does not know it or may know it, but now the time has come that you should also know. So then we also, because I said I deviated from the real topic, I moved and then I returned back. Why? Because there is a utility. There is a utility of that subject matter. I have to cover that. It comes spontaneously. So when I talk tomorrow, it will come something different. But we focus on that point. And then we praise the subject matter based on the right knowledge. Why we praise that subject matter on the right knowledge? Because I praise so that mind can pick up easily. Mind can say that, I will stick to this knowledge. I'm using a very loose word, praise. But that is what the listening and learning components in the first type of Shravanam is considered. And then we give the reasoning in support of the subject matter. So all the 6 categories are followed by all the teachers. You meet any teacher who have reached to that state, they are going to use the same. So the first type of the listening, I explained, listening can be active or passive. It can be reflective. I will talk about that in detail. Listening can be active or passive, reflective or reactive. It may be possible in the field of awareness, the seeker listens what he wants to listen, not the real purpose of what is being said. Did you understand that? Seeker listens what he wants to listen. So he loses that awareness for which the talk is meant for. At a very subtle level, that problem occurs. in life, because as active agents we do not listen attentively to what is being said, but rather what we want to hear. What we want to hear. When what we want to hear and the real purpose of what is being said is not aligned, then there is a gap, communication gap. What happens with the communication gap? May result into wrong interpretation. You are the real self. Okay, I am the body, hence body is the real self. Instant conclusion comes in the mind, then it is being expressed, then it is felt. Why? It comes because of the impurity of the mind. So Shravanam is not an easy task to do. So that is why we are understanding. How we are understanding? By the cause and effect. What is cause and effect? It is an understanding. That is how the science works. So communication may lead to wrong interpretation, misunderstanding, errors in the judgment, unwarranted action, and irrelevant emotions emerging. All these could further complicate our life. So that is what is considered as, what we say, oh, there are many dangers in Kundalini meditation. You are not understanding it. You are just doing, you are driving the car without, you don't know about the brake and accelerator. You are just doing it. So that will happen. That is why we say there are dangers. But when I live and I'm listening and learning and understanding, I live into that. Where comes the danger? Where is the danger? After all, I'm going to find the real self. I'm looking for permanent peace. If I look for struggle and suffering and pain, then obviously there is always a fear. So, impure mind cannot understand this. So go to Kundalini meditation, go to Karma Yoga, continue no, they have their importance. They work. But here we are talking of the highest level of a seeker. So Shravana is a listening, one's whole being with full attention, focus, empathy, and a presence are required to avoid communication gap. That is why we say, that is why the teacher, based on their intuitive faculty, they say, they present the subject matter at the beginning and also the conclusion. First step of the 6-step process of first type of the listening. They repeat, they repeat about the subject matter again and again. And what happens? Originality. They bring the originality. Originality from where? The knowledge of the East and West. They also show you the result, and the seeker starts feeling that result. Oh, you are listening and you had a certain thought, they entered into the mind and you endure it. Oh, I got the result. It happens simultaneously. So when it happens simultaneously, and that is why we start praising it, so that the mind grasps it. Mind should drop that communication gap. Praise me, you can say praise or appreciate, and we demonstrate clearly. The teacher in the Eastern wisdom demonstrate by reasoning in support of the subject matter. Why? Because intellect must be absorbed with that knowledge to remove all the confusion. And the reasoning is the tool. As we move into the Manan and Nididhyasan, we say leave the reasoning also. You don't need that reasoning. So the first type of the listening is listening attentively, affectionately, with softness and gentleness of the mind, with the whole being, with empathy, so that communication gap is not present. And that is why we apply the 6 tools in the first type of the listening. First type of the listening. The biggest challenge comes in the first type of the listening is that the mind changes to a triangular format, instant triangular format. Mind does not stay with a binary format because of very deep impressions already stored in my mind. It instantly shifts. In many, many ways. I say I am the real self. Real self is the reflected consciousness, an individual self, but that individual self is pointing to the real self, of which I am not aware. That is the communication gap. We discussed about there are 2 eyes. Unless I have a doubt that there is not 1 eye, there are 2 eyes. I have to go with that doubt. No, there is always 2 eyes present in all the situation, condition in my life. The individual eye does not ready to endure the pain. It will create likes and dislikes. What is known as the reflected consciousness, what is known as I. That is what we discussed in the previous topics. I am the real self. Sense of separation comes. This thought, I am the real self, coming from that I, which is an individual reflected consciousness pointing to the real self. My mind will enter into the silence. It has entered into the silence. Done. It is there. It happens. Another challenge comes. You said that I am the real self coming from the reflected consciousness as an individual or ego, whatever you want to say. But it has the illuminating power due to the real self. It is a moonlight. So moonlight have to illuminate the earth because you speak of the moonlight. Moonlight cannot illuminate the sunlight. Moonlight cannot illuminate the sun. So Master is saying here in a simple word, you are right. But now your mind has reached to that state where it is objectless. That is what we need. When it is objectless, it is not illuminating any object outside. It lives with itself. What happens? That mind merges with the real self. Now no more reflected consciousness, only the consciousness alone remains. So now we recognize that consciousness in the matter. We enter into the binary format. I'm making a deviation and then we'll come back just in one sentence. Binary format, but when you say that everything is real self, everything is the consciousness, and still you have sticking with the binary format. Hold on. Once we are clear that we are living in a binary format, we will also dissolve this second material world. It is also nothing but the manifestation of the same consciousness. Return from that deviation. That is the ultimate goal. That is the ultimate goal of awakening. So we constantly stick to binary format. We return from the triangular to the binary format again. That is why we say a qualified mind, when the qualified mind says, I am the real self, he knows it. Now see, unqualified mind says, I am the real self. Okay, I'm the body. No, I'm the breath. Oh, we enter into the confusion. That is the importance of being a qualified mind. We have been talking about the three aspects. Impure mind cannot know the real self. A qualified mind can know the real self. And that qualified mind or intellect illumines the real self. So we are explaining. This master is so deep, he doesn't forget anything what he said. He proves it. He proves it. So that is explained very briefly. So I'm giving a detailed explanation so that the when we make a statement, what we statement make, qualified mind knows the real self. It is a metaphor. Now we understand. Now we are clear that yes, moonlight cannot illumine the sun. It is a metaphor. It is a simile we are using. That makes a sense. That makes a sense. So the qualified mind does not illumine or does not know the real self. How? Because it does not have its own consciousness. But that qualified mind means that it has removed its ignorance and the impurities. I have to remove the ignorance in the mind. Are you getting it? It has removed the ignorance. That can only be taught to the seeker. That cannot be taught to a non-seeker. They get bored. Boring means communication gap. Communication gap means miscommunication, wrong notion. Mind, by listening and learning, mind removes its own ignorance. Consciousness, the real self does not have any ignorance. Another point. No, when I don't know my real self, then I'm living in ignorance. No. Mind lives in ignorance. We are removing the ignorance of the mind. That I thought in 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 the mind is the real self. Why? That I thought does not exist. It's a moonlight. So a teacher says, I'm the real self. Yes. Yes, I'm the real self. I'm the real self. Go back to that example. This master gave, you enter into a dark room with a torch. You are throwing a light with a torch on various objects. And imagine a candle that is covered by a pot. So you have to only recognize the pot and you have to uncover the pot. That candle is already burning inside. But as long as you do not recognize the purity of the mind and also the impurity of the mind, that is why we have Kundalini meditation, mantra and japa, Krishna and the Shiva, everything is there. They exist. But all, now we say they are true. When you are doing some practice, they are true. You like Shiva, yes, go with the Shiva. It gives you some sense of focus of the mind. It takes your mind away from the objective reality. Qualified, now you see, now we have understood a qualified mind can illumine the real self. Is it true? Yes, it is true. Objections are overruled. No, you say it is a reflected consciousness. No, yes, it is a reflected consciousness. We agree with it. But it's still a moonlight. The seeker objects to it. This master gives the objections, questions, and then it solves it. That is the beauty. But a seeker should have a patience to listen and learn. Otherwise, it doesn't work. You see how beautifully he has brought the same statement as a valid statement. Shravanam. So Shravanam gives the results itself, unlike the world knowledge. That is another point that we. Do you know what the mouse is? No, I don't know it. Unless I touch it, I objectified my consciousness. That is what the science is. That is what we say the science. No, science cannot prove it. Science always proves false and true based on the objectification. Anything that is objectified. That's why we create so many gadgets in the machine. And it is okay. It is true in case of the science. Not true in the case of the journey of the self-discovery. Why I said so? Now I'll just bring an end to this topic here. You have a lot to contemplate on this. Last point. Very important. Doesn't mean that when I started speaking is not important. So our mind should be very clear about this. Otherwise we will miss. Okay, let us listen only the last part. The conclusion comes in the last part based on what we discussed and understood. Should I make a statement? Yes, let me make it that way. So what I'm making is, seeker says, I have completely understood I am that. Now you go back and listen to the talk again and you realize that you have not understood anything. I'm solving your all the worries. So I have understood myself. That is a very big topic, but I'm laying a seed of it. I have understood myself to be a doer, but the real self is a non-doer. You heard me, yes. Hearding, listening is action. So the statement comes, yes, I have understood. So it means, oh, you are a doer. Okay. It means I have understood myself to be a doer, and the doer is a reflected consciousness. It enters into my mind. When I do the repeat listening, I need not to do it. I just become aware. Then even after understanding is still incomplete. Because I kept myself as a doer. Make a statement. Seeker says, I have completely understood. Okay, master says, yeah, this guy is still a doer. I have to solve this problem of being a doer. So you see this, we do to remove the doership by doing the nitya karma. We withdraw the mind by doing the breathing and the mantra. Yeah, they should continue. I will give those practices also. But ultimately we have to recognize that I have understood, the doer is absent, then you say, oh, the real self has understood real self. Last statement. The real self has understood the real self. Why? Reflected consciousness is the moonlight. Forget about it. Done. It creates the doer and the enjoyer and experiencer. It is done. Finished. That is the beauty of the Eastern wisdom. It explores, it uses the intellect, it explores through the intellect, and then it says, goodbye intellect, you are not required. And still the intellect makes a statement, I have understood. So a realized state, seeker still uses the same word, I have understood, he has understood. Why? He is there. He is not there, he is the doer. So the master has to continue the journey to remove that doer.